The story of Maya Kowalski and her mom Beata Kowalski is one of courage, suffering, and unbreakable love. It all started when Beata's husband and their lawyers suggested she wait patiently, thinking Maya's health would improve on its own. But the delay turned into a serious risk for Maya, and her mum didn't hesitate to go against the authorities for her daughter's well-being, tackling obstacles on her own. These kinds of decisions are what mothers do, those women who give everything for their kids. Dr. Jack Kowalski fell for Beata at first sight. Beata and her family moved to the US from Poland when she was 16, and she started high school in Chicago. Beata remembered a teacher telling her that she wouldn't have a future in this country because her English wasn't great. But those early years were just a phase. Beata finished college and became a nurse at a medical center, specializing in cardiovascular surgery. When Jack and Beata got married, they bought a house, and right away, Beata started prepping a nursery for their future child. She had dreamed of being a mom for a long time, but pregnancy took a while. After several years of trying, the couple finally succeeded in conceiving. Maya Kowalski's arrival in 2005 was the fulfillment of their biggest wish. 2 years later, Kyle was born, completing the family. Beata always made sure Maya had the best of the best. Maya had a pretty packed schedule with piano lessons, singing, learning Polish, and school. Beata kept a journal where she noted every detail of her daughter's daily activities. By spring 2015, the Kowalski family's life seemed perfect. They had 2 beautiful kids, a lovely house in the Florida suburbs, and everything seemed to be going great. Beata, at 41, worked in intravenous therapy, administering medications to patients. Her husband, a former fire chief, was now retired, spending most of his time at home with the kids. On July 4, 2015, the whole nation was celebrating Independence Day, and Maya and her brother Kyle were running around their yard playing with sparklers. Suddenly, Maya had a severe asthma attack. She was rushed to the hospital, complaining of pain in her legs and feet. She was hospitalized for a few days, but then she was sent home. However, her health took a turn for the worse. After a few weeks, Maya was almost unable to walk. Her feet had begun to deform strangely, and she suffered from intense pain every night. Despite the doctor's efforts, Maya's illness remained a mystery. With her experience as a nurse, Beata knew something was off. She realized that Maya's symptoms weren't normal and started searching for answers. The family moved from one hospital to another, but the doctors still couldn't figure out what was happening. Meanwhile, Maya's symptoms worsened, featuring severe pain, muscle spasms, migraines, coughing up yellow and green phlegm, sinusitis, bleeding skin lesions, and constant fatigue. Maya had to stay home, as any exposure to the outdoors made her symptoms worse. After visiting countless hospitals, the Kowalski family ended up at a children's medical in Tampa. But once again, the doctors couldn't pinpoint exactly what was wrong. In an attempt to explain Maya's muscle pain and weakness, they suggested that the oral steroids prescribed for her asthma might be the culprit. The doctor's only advice was to wait it out, but waiting meant more suffering for Maya. Beata, refusing to stand by and watch her daughter endure endless pain without proper treatment, decided enough was enough. Maya's skin became so sensitive that even the slightest touch from clothing caused unbearable pain. At times, the agony was so intense that Maya would writhe and cry uncontrollably. Beata, always meticulous about tracking Maya's health, began keeping a detailed record of her symptoms. Every doctor they visited got the full history she had documented, but even with all that information, a solution remained out of reach. During one appointment, a doctor suggested that Maya's pain might be anxiety-related, but Beata knew better. Her maternal instincts told her that something much more serious was going on. Eventually, one of Beata's patients, an anesthesiologist named Anthony Kirkpatrick, recommended that they consult with him. After months of daily suffering, Beata and Maya went to see him. From the very first examination, Dr. Kirkpatrick diagnosed Maya with a rare condition called Complex Regional Pain Syndrome, CRPS. This is an uncommon neurological disorder that usually develops after an injury or trauma to a limb and leads to chronic severe pain, extreme sensitivity, muscle stiffness, and even bone deformities. Dr. Kirkpatrick explained that with CRPS, The pain doesn't fade over time like it normally would, but instead gets worse. He described it as a kind of internal fire, where patients feel burning and intense itch-like sensations from even the slightest touch. CRPS is often dubbed as the suicide disease because the pain can become so excruciating that life feels unbearable. If left untreated, it can lead to muscle atrophy, limb deformities, and an extremely diminished quality of life. Maya was already in an advanced stage of the syndrome, and she needed treatment immediately. Dr. Kirkpatrick proposed aggressive ketamine therapy, an anesthetic widely known for its recreational misuse, but also approved as a treatment for CRPS. Ketamine works by blocking the activity of a substance called glutamate, which is found in high levels in CRPS patients and plays a significant role in transmitting pain signals. While the ketamine treatment came with a hefty price and some risks, it offered a glimmer of hope for Maya. Being the cautious mother she was, Beata thoroughly researched ketamine before making any decisions. After carefully weighing the risks and consulting other specialists, the family ultimately gave the green light. The early treatments were tough, progress seemed slow, and the therapy didn't seem to deliver the quick relief they had hoped for. That's when Dr. Kirkpatrick suggested a more drastic approach, inducing a ketamine coma. This experimental procedure, only available in Monterrey, Mexico, required administering a much higher dose of ketamine than usual, with the aim of resetting Maya's nervous system and halting the pain. The decision was terrifying for Beata and Jack, but they couldn't ignore the possibility of giving Maya a chance at a pain-free life. In a video recorded at the time, Maya's parents appear racked with anxiety as they prepare for the procedure, while Maya herself exhibits a surprising sense of hope. Despite the overwhelming uncertainty, Maya was ready to try anything to free herself from the relentless pain. Her parents, despite the emotional and financial toll of the treatment, just wanted their daughter to have a shot at a normal life. In November 2015, Maya underwent her first ketamine infusion. The days following the procedure were marked by a swirling mixture of fear, pain, and glimmers of hope. When Maya woke up from the coma, she wasn't entirely aware of what was happening. The first few days were filled with hallucinations and confusion, leaving both the doctors and her family deeply concerned. But as time passed, the signs of improvement grew clearer. The pain began to subside, and eventually, Maya was able to get out of bed without help. Her progress was slow, but undeniably significant. By early 2016, Dr. Kirkpatrick recommended continuing the ketamine therapy, but suggested a more cost-efficient solution. He referred Maya to Dr. Ashraf Hanna, a specialist based in Florida, which allowed the family to keep treatment expenses more manageable. Maya began returning to a sense of normalcy. She went back to school, picked up singing and dancing again, and spent her days playing in the water with her brother. However, her remission didn't last long. By October 2016, as a hurricane loomed over the Florida coast, Maya experienced a devastating pain flare-up, throwing the entire family back into chaos. Beata and Jack made the difficult choice to take Maya to a nearby hospital, but when they arrived, the doctors there doubted the diagnosis of CRPS, dismissing the condition and ignoring the family's history with the effective ketamine treatment. The staff's indifference and skepticism left the family feeling hopeless. These medical professionals, unfamiliar with the complexities of CRPS, failed to recognize the seriousness of the situation. What followed was the beginning of an intense legal and emotional battle that would change the Kowalski family's lives forever. In October 2016, as the hurricane approached Florida's coastline, the Kowalski family had no choice but to rush Maya to a nearby hospital after she experienced a severe pain flare-up. Despite her prior diagnosis of complex regional pain syndrome, CRPS, and the fact that ketamine had been the only treatment that alleviated her symptoms, the hospital's doctors were skeptical. Beata, distressed and desperate, tried to explain Maya's condition, but her words fell on deaf ears. The disbelief surrounding the use of ketamine was obvious, and the situation only became more heartbreaking. When Maya was admitted to the emergency room, the doctors treated her as though her issues were psychological, not physical. They seemed convinced that Beata was either exaggerating Maya's symptoms or worse, deliberately causing them. The term Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a psychological disorder where a caregiver induces or fabricates illness in a child for attention, was floated by some of the staff. Beata, outraged, fought to make them see that Maya's suffering was very real, but no one seemed willing to listen. Instead of providing the treatment Maya so desperately needed, the hospital became the scene of a tense medical standoff. At one particularly heated moment, the lead ER doctor dismissed ketamine as an option, even though it had proven to work for Maya. Instead, the medical staff suggested that Beata's behavior, her insistence and emotional outbursts, was the real issue, and that Maya's condition was merely a reflection of maternal anxiety rather than a legitimate illness. For Beata, who was emotionally drained from years of advocating for her daughter, this was a devastating blow. Maya, meanwhile, continued to endure unimaginable pain, her cries for relief going unanswered by the hospital staff. The situation took a grim turn when Beata, desperate for them to alleviate her daughter's suffering, pressed harder for ketamine treatment. The doctors not only denied her request, but also escalated the matter by involving social services, alleging possible child abuse. Suddenly, Beata and Jack found themselves accused of harming Maya by insisting on a treatment that the hospital staff did not approve of. The accusation was a crushing blow for the family. Beata and Jack had fought tooth and nail to help their daughter survive and heal, yet now they were being accused of causing her harm. Beata, emotionally worn down from the constant fight, tried to openly explain the situation to Deborah Hansen, the social worker assigned to the case. But Hansen seemed convinced that Beata was exaggerating Maya's condition or fabricating her illness entirely. Frustrated and without support, Beata felt utterly powerless. The devastating decisions came swiftly. The hospital staff decided to prevent Beata and Jack from having direct contact with Maya in the days that followed. Despite having followed every medical recommendation up to that point, they were now stripped of their rights to care for and make decisions about their child's health. It was a heart-wrenching moment for the family, who were now being treated as a threat to their daughter instead of the loving parents they were. As despair consumed the Kowalskis, Beata's persistence to secure ketamine treatment for Maya was interpreted as aggressive and inappropriate by the medical staff. This mischaracterization of Beata's advocacy became the justification for social services to take control of the case. Days turned into a nightmare for the family. Maya, already physically and emotionally scarred, began to feel the compounded pain of being deprived of the one treatment that worked for her. Meanwhile, Beata and Jack scrambled to find legal help, knowing that their family was falling apart. By late October 2016, the situation reached its breaking point when a court sided with social services and ruled that Maya should be separated from her parents. It was a decision that shattered the family. In an even darker twist, the Kowalskis found themselves facing a legal battle centered on accusations of medical abuse and child endangerment. Beata, who had always fought tirelessly to protect and care for her daughter, was now painted as the villain in a story she had struggled so hard to navigate. Maya's suffering continued amidst the chaos. Even though she had briefly tasted relief thanks to her mother's unwavering determination and the ketamine treatments, she was now left with no access to what had worked. The doctors treating her still didn't fully understand her illness, and with her parents barred from making decisions, the situation seemed hopeless. Despite everything, the Kowalski family refused to give up. Beata, even while enduring the emotional and legal storm, clung to her commitment to finding help for Maya. Her love and determination burned brighter than ever. The family was now caught in the crosshairs of the medical and legal systems, with Maya trapped in the middle of an unthinkable nightmare. Social services, originally intended to protect Maya, became yet another obstacle in their fight to give her a chance at a better life. Beata, who had been nothing less than a devoted mother, now had to contend with the reality that her love and advocacy could be misinterpreted and used against her. Even as the odds stacked against her, Beata refused to surrender. She knew what Maya needed, and she was willing to fight anyone and everyone to secure it, even if it meant going toe-to-toe with the authorities. In the days to come, the family would prepare for a legal battle that would dictate not only Maya's future, but also whether Beata would ever be able to care for her daughter again. As the Kowalski family grappled with overwhelming desperation, the legal battle over Maya's custody and treatment raged on. The separation of Maya from her parents was not just an emotionally devastating blow for Beata and Jack, it thrust them into an impossible position of proving that their daughter desperately needed the treatment they'd fought so hard for. The approaching court case wouldn't just test their resilience, it would expose the harsh realities of a medical and legal system that couldn't grasp the severity of Maya's condition. As the days went on, tension inside the hospital escalated. Beata, already isolated and misunderstood, began noticing a shift in how the medical staff treated her and Maya. They were increasingly hostile. Despite Beata's insistence that ketamine was the only intervention that Maya could tolerate, her pleas were dismissed as demands for a dangerous, unnecessary treatment. This rejection happened even though the treatment had been prescribed by a renowned specialist. Meanwhile, Maya continued to suffer, her pain unabated despite being in the care of a skilled professional team. The hospital, instead of being a refuge, had become another place of torment. The legal system wasn't any kinder. Its focus seemed to shift away from Maya's very real suffering, concentrating instead on the suspicion that her parents might be neglectful. State authorities, guided by social services, viewed Beata's persistence as suspect. In particular, social worker Deborah Hansen interpreted Beata's determination to advocate for ketamine as evidence that the mother was manipulating the situation. Hansen failed to understand Maya's physical suffering or the nature of her rare condition. Instead, she saw Beata as a desperate mother seeking attention at any cost, but Beata refused to relent. Despite the accusations, she continued advocating for what she believed was right for Maya. During the proceedings, Beata repeatedly explained that Maya's illness was a genuine and incredibly painful medical condition that was robbing her of her childhood. Unfortunately, the extensive medical records and documentation Beata had compiled weren't enough to sway the authorities' perception. The system doubted her judgment as a parent, later accusing the family of pursuing what they called unnecessary and risky treatment. The situation took an even darker turn when the hospital staff and social services suggested that Beata might be suffering from Munchausen syndrome by proxy. This psychological condition involves a caregiver fabricating or causing illnesses in their child to gain attention or sympathy. The accusation shattered Beata, turning her advocacy for Maya into the locus of a full-blown attack against her character. Despite a lack of concrete evidence to support this claim, the authorities deemed it credible enough to open an investigation into her. The stress from this ordeal weighed heavily on Beata. Not only was she watching her daughter suffer without proper treatment, but now she was being painted as a negligent or even abusive mother. The pressure became unbearable. Child welfare officials began intensely monitoring her visits with Maya, scrutinizing every word and gesture. The atmosphere grew suffocating, as any attempt by Beata to comfort or advocate for her daughter was vilified as manipulative or inappropriate. Meanwhile, Maya's condition persisted. Despite her parents' tireless efforts, the lack of proper treatment left her trapped in the relentless cycle of pain. The restrictions placed on her care by both the hospital and the authorities made it impossible for Maya to receive the relief she so desperately needed. She remained caught in limbo, her physical suffering compounded by the rift between her family and the system supposedly meant to protect her. On October 14, 2016, after months of tension and legal maneuvering, the first court ruling came down. The judge ruled in favor of social services, deciding that Maya should remain in state custody. For Beata, the decision was crushing. Upon hearing the verdict, she collapsed onto the courtroom floor, overwhelmed by the weight of it all. Beata lost consciousness and had to be taken to a hospital for medical attention. The moment was utterly overwhelming. Not only had she lost custody of her daughter, but the system entrusted with helping children had turned against her entirely. As part of the ongoing legal process, Beata was required to undergo a psychological evaluation. While the evaluation determined that she did not have Munchausen syndrome by proxy, it did reveal that she was suffering from severe adjustment disorder, triggered by the separation from Maya and the immense stress of the ordeal. Despite the findings, The authorities chose to interpret Beata's actions as exaggerated and harmful. The Kowalski family was barred from administering ketamine treatments to Maya, even though nothing else had eased her pain. The court battle that followed became grueling. Prosecutors argued that ketamine treatment was unnecessary and dangerous, while the defense worked tirelessly to demonstrate that Beata and Jack only wanted what was best for their child. The family found themselves caught in the crossfire of a legal system that seemed fundamentally unable to comprehend the harrowing reality of Maya's pain and disease. The court consistently sided with social services, leaving Beata deprived of even seeing her daughter for days at a time. The situation reached its boiling point when the constant pressure finally broke Beata's spirit. Exhausted and hopeless, Beata began to withdraw from the legal fight. She isolated herself, visibly defeated by the loss of custody and the mounting accusations. Her hope of ever reuniting with Maya seemed to dwindle with each passing day. Yet in the midst of this personal collapse, the Kowalskis found a glimmer of opportunity. Desperate and running out of options, Beata and Jack turned to a lawyer specializing in civil rights. The family set their sights on taking their case to a higher level. Determined not to give up, they sought new strategies to regain custody and obtain the vital medical treatment Maya needed to break free from her suffering. Beata's love for her daughter and the family's unyielding resolve to fight for her remained a ray of hope amidst the darkness. After months of suffering, legal battles, and ignored evidence, the Kowalski family found themselves on the brink of despair. Despite the forced separation from Maya and the accusations against Beata, they felt a deep conviction that they couldn't give up. Even as authorities continued to insist that Beata had exaggerated her daughter's condition, the truth remained clear to the family. Maya needed the right treatment for her rare illness, and they were only trying to help her. Finally, after multiple appeals, the legal battle took a turn when a judge agreed to review the case from a fresh perspective. The family hired a civil rights attorney, and this new angle allowed the case to receive more impartial attention. Their legal team managed to present new evidence, a report from a specialist confirming that Maya's illness was real and that ketamine was the only viable option for her recovery. Dr. Ashraf Hanna, a recognized expert in treating rare syndromes, provided crucial testimony supporting the diagnosis and treatment Maya had been receiving. His statement significantly changed the course of the case. Upon hearing the new evidence, the judge began to question the earlier decisions made by the social services system, which had taken Maya into custody without fully understanding her condition. It became clear that ketamine treatment was not only reasonable, but had been effective in managing Maya's pain. This revelation was a devastating blow to those who had insisted that the Kowalski family was mistaken, but finally, the authorities began to see the truth. Throughout this turbulent period, however, Maya's condition remained dire. Although there had been some progress with her treatment, the time without access to ketamine had worsened her state significantly. The aftermath of her illness was evident. Maya had lost strength in her legs and still struggled to move. Each day without the appropriate treatment pushed her further into chronic pain. During this time, Beata endured immense suffering. The emotional and psychological strains of the situation left her exhausted, but her determination never wavered. Even facing accusations of abuse and battling authorities who didn't understand her plight, Beata forged ahead in defense of her daughter. During her darkest moments, she clung to the hope that one day she would see Maya free from pain, even if she didn't know how long it would take to get there. The Kowalski family finally achieved a major breakthrough when the court issued a temporary order allowing Maya to receive ketamine treatment while the legal proceedings continued. This was a partial but crucial victory, marking the beginning of the end of the nightmare that had plagued the family for so long. Although Maya was still under the custody of social services, she could finally receive the treatment necessary for her improvement. On January 13, 2017, after more than 3 months of forced separation, the court ultimately ruled in favor of the Kowalski family. Maya was returned to her parents' custody, a decision that brought tears of relief to Beata and Jack. The verdict concluded that the family had been treated unfairly and that Maya's well-being should never have been called into question. In that moment, the Kowalski family embraced one another. with hope that despite everything they'd endured, their unconditional love for each other would prevail. However, this victory came with consequences. The family faced not only physical and emotional scars, but also a significant financial burden. The cost of ketamine treatment, already high, had drained nearly all their savings. Beata had to work extra hours, and Jack took on night shifts to cover medical expenses. Their financial situation teetered on the brink of collapse, forcing them to sell personal belongings to pay for treatments. Despite these economic hardships, the return of Maya home was a moment of pure joy. The recovery process was long and arduous, but with the appropriate treatment and the unwavering love of her parents, Maya began to experience significant improvements. She started walking with the aid of a cane, and her pain levels began to decrease. Though her recovery was gradual, the changes were remarkable, allowing Maya to enjoy a life free from constant pain for the first time in ages. The story of Maya Kowalski thus became not only a testament to a girl's struggle against a rare and painful disease, but also to a mother's battle who, against all odds, did everything in her power to save her daughter. Beata and Jack demonstrated unflagging love and incredible resilience in a situation that would have seen many families give up. The experience left lasting marks on the Kowalski family, and Beata became an advocate for the proper treatment of rare diseases. Although Maya continues to face challenges, she has learned to live with her pain in a more controlled manner. Today, the family is committed to helping others facing similar situations, sharing their story so that no other mothers have to endure what Beata went through. Ultimately, Maya Kowalski's journey was captured in a documentary titled Caring for Maya, which premiered on Netflix in 2023. The documentary became a massive success, highlighting the urgency of addressing rare illnesses without prejudging the families who encounter them. It reached millions of viewers worldwide, raising awareness about the pain and struggles many children with complex health issues endure. Despite the scars of their past, the Kowalski family continues forward, hopeful that their story can prevent others from experiencing similar trials. Now 17 years old, Maya continues her treatment, and while the battle remains a part of her life, she has learned to embrace life with impressive strength, knowing that her mother and father will always be by her side to support her, no matter the obstacles.